Superboy number 26, written by Frank Hanna and Marv Wolfman, art by Andre Guinaldo. It's a brand new Superboy. So for anyone who was not in the loop, there was a whole thing going on in Teen Titans number 26, and then the return of Krypton, or Krypton Returns, I can't remember the order, story arc in Superman, where essentially Superboy has been replaced by a far more evil Superboy from an alternate timeline. Just accept that, because that is the marching orders moving forward in this book. So we see this new Superboy who internally calls himself John. John is seeing a whole bunch of monsters surrounding him in like this huge purple field, and they like tentacles are probing his face and like spikes are pointing into his head. And finally he wakes up and he's like, "Whoa, Jesus, what's going on?" And he sees this huge spiky one telling him like, "Oh, you're a killer. You were about to conquer the world. Why would someone want you dead?" And we see him, like there's a couple of eyes staring at him, and they're the ones who are clearly talking to him and just being like, "Oh, John, you have so much potential, but I need to see if you're able to live up to it. You have to kill these monsters, destroy them, and if you live, then you can find me." And he's basically just yells out like, "Shut up, I don't want to deal with you." And he starts like strangling these monsters in his mind, which turns out in real life is him strangling Wonder Girl, Cassie Sandsmark, as he's in a hospital bed and she was over top of him. And he's just like, "Hey, Superboy, it's me. It's Cassie. You're good." And of course she's calling him Kon because that's what she thinks he still is. And then we get the quick recap of everything that happened, which is there was an original timeline where this Superboy was raised by Harvest before Harvest became Harvest, and then he had some sort of crippling disease, so they made another Superboy. That was Kon, in order to try to cure the disease, basically just be an organ farm. It didn't work out. There was a whole thing where Harvest went back in time and did all this stuff, but now the Teen Titans are in the distant future, and they have brought this Superboy along thinking that he is Kon, and he's just going to continue to keep up the act. So, well, I say that. He says he's going to keep up the act, but then he's just like, "But I really like killing. So I'm just going to go ahead and start killing all the Teen Titans, starting with this girl." And just throws her against the wall, and she's like, "Okay, I don't know what's going on, but I will fight back against you, whatever's controlling you." And so she kicks him in the head. He immediately gets up and starts strangling her again. And he's just like, "Oh, that's weird. My strength isn't at full peak. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to kill her. I have limits here." And she gets down and she's like literally about to stab him because of what he's doing. And at that point, he's like, "Okay, I do have to bide my time. I have to wait till I get stronger." And he's just like, "Cassie, is that you?" And then all of a sudden, like other police people come in. And again, remember, they're in the future. There's a whole Flash story going on in Teen Titans. And he's just like, no, it's me. I swear, I'm sorry. I don't know what was happening." And Cassie's like, "Prove it." And he's like, "Tell me how to prove it. I'll do whatever you want." And meanwhile, his internal monologue's just like, "God, I want to crush your skull and see what comes out." So at that point, he starts getting woozy, like for real. And he's like, "Oh, okay, hold on. Something's going on." And he passes out again. And when he comes to, all of the Teen Titans are standing over him. And they're just like, "Hey, Kon, what's going on? Why are you going on?" And he's like, "I don't know. I can't. The only thing I remember is Cassie literally kicking my ass." And Cassie's like, "Oh, yeah, he's all right. He's fine." So then one of the doctors is there saying like, "Hey, we took some samples from you. We're just running some preliminary tests now. I'd like to run some more tests if you could. It's just future tech. Just look into this little box thing." And he's just like, "Oh, well, I can't have them figuring out that much about me." So he uses his telekinetic ability to explode the box. And he's just like, "Oh, geez, is that supposed to happen? That doesn't seem very safe." She's like, "That's literally never happened before. I don't know what's going on." And John's just like, "Okay, well, can I get some sleep, guys? I'm feeling a little bit woozy still. Tell me what's going on with Kid Flash." So everyone leaves, but Raven gives a look back like, something's going on with that kid. So immediately, as soon as they're out of the room, John sits up and he's like, "All right, if they've already run some tests on me, I need to get rid of those results." So he puts his hand to the wall and uses his telekinetic ability to feel where the tests are, and then just like immediately blows them up. Just like, "All right, they're done with. But there are still some samples I need to deal with. So we need to go down to the genetics lab one floor down." And as he's making his way through the floor, He uses his telekinetic ability to push people out of the way, blow up the security cameras, and then bend the light around him so that he's functionally invisible. And as he gets down to the lower floor, he just walks past and he's like, oh, there are guards down here. What could they be guarding? A meta? I hate metas. I'm going to kill whatever meta I find down here. So he just walks through the door, and inside he sees this woman who has electricity powers. And she's just like, what? Who are you? What are you doing here? And he's like, whatever I got to do. And then just starts choking out this girl, just immediately starts strangling her. And he starts repeating all the words that Harvest put into his mind, just being like, oh, you metas, you used to save the world, but then you became like you started taking action before anything. And so the world became subject to your whims in order to try to make it a better place in your eyes. And that's why I have to kill all the metas. So yeah, that's what he does. So eventually he gets electrified, but like this body is completely burnt to a crisp. And he's like, oh, cool. I can feed off of the meta energy. I can absorb it into me. All the more reason to keep killing them. So then he turns on the computer and it requires an eye scan. So he holds up the corpse of this body to get its eye scan. And he's like, all right, report on John Kent. Say what's going on. And the report throws out, okay, the father's DNA is alien. It's Superman. And he's like, okay, well, what about the mother? And it's like, oh, well, the mother's DNA is multiple strands. All of them are meta. And he's like, oh, okay, John's got many moms. That's interesting. But then he's like, wait a minute, hold on. Tell me what you know about Kon. And he's like, oh, Kon, referred to as Superboy. They've got huge achievement list. Would you like to download it? And he's like, he probably led a pretty boring life. I don't care. Did he do like anything super special? And he's like, well, because we have all this time travel stuff, we can say his list of accomplishments, including future accomplishments, which is in approximately 1,000 years, Kon will be instrumental to forming the Legion of Superheroes. So at that point, he's like, oh, I'm taking the place of a guy who's going to form the Legion of Superheroes. Oh, this is a beautiful friendship. So, yeah. All right. Few questions. I'm not saying I dislike this. I actually think this is a much better pivot to the Superboy book than what it's been for like the past 25 issues. It actually gives this character focus and something to do and is like his own thing rather than just beholden to whatever other books are doing. Totally cool with that. Here's my thing. We're already in the distant future. So why is it saying 1,000 years from now he's going to make the Legion of Superheroes? Additionally, we've seen the Legion of Superheroes in this continuity. That's not how it plays. I'm so confused. Either way, whatever it's doing with it, I'm sure we'll get some level of answers. This book does end, I believe, at issue 34. So this is the last trade of it. But we do still have like 10 issues until it wraps up. So I'm curious to see where we get to it. Overall, I'd say this one is probably... See, I don't want to rate it too high because, like, you know, it still is got its problems. But I'm just so happy to actually, like, finish a Superboy issue without hating my guts afterwards that I want to rate it high. So I think I'll just split the difference. I'll call this an even 7. It's doing good things. And I hope that it continues down that path. There's no guarantee, but I'm hopeful.